Hi book friends, I'm Erin and this is Erin Go Read. Today I'm going to do the YouTube newbie tag. This is my third video, so I would say I'm pretty new. Question 1 is, why did I start this channel? Number 1, it just seemed like a fun thing to do. I discovered Booktube in April or May or so of 2018, and I've been a major consumer of it since then, and I thought, I have this reading habit, so this might be a fun way to document it and engage more with the Booktube community. The other thing is I am starting a health coaching business. Eventually, at some point, I will probably use some sort of video as a coaching tool or a teaching tool. I can use this as kind of my practice almost for that, but it's a hobby. It's something that I enjoy doing anyway, and then I'll have the benefit of learning this new skill that I can use later in my business. Question 2 is, what are some fun and unique things that I can bring to Booktube? The first thing that comes to mind is that, like I mentioned, the health coaching business, some of the nonfiction that I read lately has been some business type material. For example, this is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. I haven't read this yet, but I plan to pick this up pretty shortly. But more specifically, a book like this, The Primal Blueprint. So this is kind of what started it all. I will be a primal health coach. So if you are plugged in at all to ancestral health, you may know of Mark Sisson, Primal Kitchen. This isn't an ad for them or anything, but I will be reading a lot of ancestral health type of nonfiction books. Another maybe fun thing that I bring, at least different thing that I bring to Booktube, is that my husband has a traumatic brain injury. He was a Marine, deployed to Iraq, and his Humvee was hit by a roadside bomb. So it's a miracle that he survived in the first place. He was in a coma for over a month, and he lives about 15 minutes away from me now in a rehab home because he requires 24-hour nursing care, and then he gets all sorts of therapy and all through the week. So I anticipate that maybe there might be some blogs or vlogs in the future, maybe incorporating him. We do read a lot together. So here's a picture of the two of us. He has a beard here. He doesn't have the beard anymore, but that's us. Where his rehab home is kind of in a rural area, and the next door neighbor is a ranch, and so every year we go to their pumpkin patch in October, and so that was I think this was the year before last actually. What's the other one? Oh, here he is. We're in his room. He still had a beard here. We were just being silly, I think, or he was. He's got his Gryffindor t-shirt on there. So that's Sam, and he's obviously a big part of my life, and so I'll be mentioning him from time to time, and hopefully he'll be appearing in some vlogs as well. Question 3 is, what are you most excited about starting this channel? I think that's basically the same as why did you start this channel? Number 1, for fun. It's a fun hobby, and I can share that with the Booktube community. Secondly, I'm excited to learn a new skill. Question number 4 is, why do I love reading? Well, let me introduce you to a couple of my friends, Anne and Harry. These two are prime examples of why I love reading. Anne Shirley of Anne of Green Gables has a huge part to do with why I love reading and why I love stories in general. Growing up, my dad used to read Anne of Green Gables and Anne of Avonlea to me as a bedtime story. I was probably between like 7 to 9 maybe when he was doing that. And then we had the videotapes, the VHS, look it up, of Anne of Green Gables and Anne of Avonlea. And it was one of those things where someone would put it on, like on a Saturday morning, and then by the end of it, all 4 of us, my whole family, would be cuddled up in the living room together. And so Anne just makes me feel at home, and she's like the heart, I think, of what started my love of reading, even at a time when I didn't do a lot of reading personally. I don't think I have to go into much detail as to why I love Harry Potter, but I think it's the later in my life example of getting immersed in a world and with the characters, when I would have those moments, and I still do when I reread the series, have those moments of something, a noise, something takes you out of your reading of it, and you realize, oh, this isn't my life. I'm not their friend. Hermione and I aren't going to braid each other's hair. And it was the beginning of my it's kind of funny because they're children's books, but it's the beginning of my adult reading career. Question 5 was, what book or series got you into reading? So when I was young, I had quite a difficult time reading. I always wanted to be a reader and had a difficult time. There are a few times that I remember getting into books and just being sucked into them. And the first series was called the Pee Wee Pals. And this was like a co-ed scout troop. Those were the first chapter books I remember reading. In my much more recent adult life, the book that kind of started my much more prolific and consistent reading was about almost 3 years ago now, and that was Ken Follett's The Pillars of the Earth. And this is my favorite book, hands down. Since I read this book, I read, I think, 4 Follett's in a row, and these are like 1,000 pages. This one's 982. And so I think I read 4 Follett's in a row, and then I think I specifically went to the bookstore looking for like a smaller book, like give me something that's like 250, 300 pages. And then I've since read 6, so 2 trilogies I've read by Ken Follett, and they're all chunkers like that. Since I read Pillars of the Earth, getting close to 3 years ago now, I haven't put down a book. My dog wants to play fetch. Hello. Ready? Go. Question 6 is, what questions do you have for other booktubers? I've watched several videos, several have come out recently, about starting a booktube channel. So right as I was thinking about actually starting this, I watched several videos that gave me some great advice. I believe Mara from Books Like Whoa did one, and April from Getting Hygge with It. Both did some, and it was really helpful for getting started. And then Mercedes over at Mercy's Bookish Musings mentioned this in a recent video. I think the thing that I'm most curious about and want to improve in is sounding natural. So, like, how do you sound natural? How did you get more comfortable speaking to a camera rather than a person? So I don't feel nervous looking at the camera here. And maybe it is that I am being natural. I just don't realize that this is how I talk. That could be it too. So I don't know. I don't know if I have any specific questions for other booktubers. I just like to watch them and learn and kind of compare what I'm doing with what they're doing, what I like about what they do. And I'm sure I'll have more questions to come along eventually. Question 7 is, what challenges do I foresee in starting a booktube channel? The big one for me, I've already kind of got over the editing hump and all that. I at least can upload a video. I've at least figured it out to a minor extent. The big one for me, as I see going forward, would be to continue, like the motivation to continue to make videos with like 8 subscribers. So I know I won't have 8 subscribers forever, but I guess at a point it's like, why am I doing this? Am I doing this just for myself? Is this ever going to go anywhere? Or am I just talking to my phone in front of my books? So, yeah, I suppose the biggest challenge for me right now is just, look at other big YouTubers with thousands of subscribers, tens of thousands of subscribers, and I'm looking for double digits right now. So it's not that I'm doing this because I want to have the most subscribers or anything like that. It's just a little bit like, I'm talking, is anyone hearing me? So I don't see that as a huge challenge for me, but it's the only thing I can think of. Question number 8 is, when did I first start reading? I don't think that's when did you learn to read. I'm going to say my sophomore year of high school, I learned somewhere that the process of reading makes you smarter. It actually creates new synapses in your brain. So beyond the information that you learn from a book, just the process of reading actually enhances your brain. So, shaky dog. So that's when I started actually reading for pleasure. And in high school, I pretty much always had a book with me. I wasn't hugely social. I was an ROTC and kind of a nerd. So a big nerd. And so I didn't do much socialization at the beginning of class. So I'd get to class and I'd pull out my book and read. Question number 9 is, where do you read? I'm always really interested in other people too. Like where, I want to see your reading spot. I have a few, primarily on my couch in my living room, with a blanket on me, usually propped up with pillows, and I'll always have a drink nearby. That's probably where I do most of my reading. I have 2 reading chairs, one in separate rooms. One was thrift shop buy. I think I bought it for $20 about 11 years ago or so. And actually I read all of book 7 of Harry Potter sitting in that chair. It doesn't match anything else in my house, but I just have it's comfy. It's this comfy old chair from like the 80s. We had a couch much like that when I was a kid. So that's one of my spots. And then I have I have another chair in another room that is it's an Eames chair. It's a reproduction of an Eames chair. If you ever watched Frasier, it's the same type of chair that Frasier really wanted to have, and his dad had his old ugly recliner that Frasier hated. So my family calls it my Frasier chair. So that's my other reading spot. I also read quite a bit with my husband. So he'll be in his wheelchair during the day, and I'll get him right next to the bed, and I'll set myself up a little pillow situation, get myself propped up, and we'll read together there. Or his rehab home is on a beautiful property, and so if the weather is nice, we'll go out and sit in the sun or sit under the patio and enjoy the fresh air and the beautiful scenery and a good book. Question 10 is, what kind of books do you like to read? A pretty eclectic taste. I've, within the last 5 years or so, discovered I definitely enjoy historical fiction. Pillars of the Earth is my favorite book. I like fantasy as well. I'm getting more into fantasy. I do read some sci-fi as well. I love Ender's Game. I think I've read it 3 times now in the last 12 years. I'm also really enjoying mysteries. So I've read probably more mysteries this year than maybe I've read in my life. I remember as a kid reading Encyclopedia Brown that I would get from the school library. And of course, grew up watching Scooby-Doo. Where are you? Getting more into literary fiction and contemporary, more into classics. I read, I think, 10 or so classics last year. No, that's a lie. I'm going to count this. I read 4 or 5 just in the last 4 maybe months of 2018. So I look forward to getting more into classics. My reading palette is quite eclectic. One thing that I think is I feel like I'm pretty easy to please. And so one thing that maybe will change as I grow this channel and just become a more discerning reader, and especially because I have to talk about books in a way that I don't normally when I just consume them on my own, is that maybe as I'm talking about books, I will become more discerning. But as of right now, I find them really easy to please. And as long as I enjoyed a book, I don't necessarily look for issues with the book unless they were really glaring to me. So it'll be interesting as this channel goes on how I evolve in that way or not. In the meantime, I'm a pretty happy reader. Thank you for watching and getting to know me a little bit more. I always enjoy finding out little reading tidbits about other people. So give me a thumbs up, subscribe, comment. See you around the tubes.